Good afternoon, everyone. Apparently, I'm supposed to say that this is the, do we say advanced or experienced class? And the beginners class is next door. So if you're here for the beginners class, you're over there. No, you're all in the right place? That's good. So I think the normal format is that I talk about meditation for about 15 minutes, is that right? And then we do some sitting for 45 minutes? Yeah. Okay, so first off, can everyone please make sure they turn their mobile phones on? Because we need to be reminded of impermanence. No? Okay. If you insist, we'll keep it quiet if you think that's necessary. Okay, so what we might do for the talk on meditation today is, rather than teaching a particular meditation subject, I might talk a bit about a set of dhammas that the Buddha called the Iddhipadas, which we usually translate as the bases of psychic power. So these are the factors of the mind that you should develop if you want to get psychic powers. And of course it should hardly need to be said that, according to Buddhism, that the only psychic power that you really need is the psychic power of making an end of all of the things that are causing suffering, and that's the one that really matters. So these Iddhipadas, set of 4 dhammas, is, in Pali, we say chanda, virya, citta and vimamsa. Chanda meaning enthusiasm or desire. Virya is energy. Citta is awareness. And vimamsa is inquiry. Okay, so 4 dhammas. And these 4 factors should be developed along with any meditation. And the overall effect that they have is to give energy and to give strength to the meditation. But I'll just talk a little bit more about each of the factors individually and then talk about the relationship between them. Now the first one, chanda, is a little bit unusual. The word chanda literally means desire or wanting something or wishing something. In this context it means the desire to practice the Dhamma, the desire to meditate, desire to purify your mind, the desire to be enlightened. And this is something that people often misunderstand, because when we hear about Buddhism, one of the things that people sometimes say about Buddhism is you should let go of all your desires, because your desires are what cause suffering. And that's not quite correct. If you look at how the Buddha talked about the 4 Noble Truths, the second Noble Truth doesn't actually say all desires need to be let go of. What it says is yayang dharna bono bhavika. is those desires or those cravings that lead to future rebirth. Right? So it's not all kinds of desires are problematic from a Buddhist point of view. It's only those desires which give rise to suffering. So to understand the difference, then of course you have to look in your own mind and you see what kinds of desires are actually causing me suffering. Okay? And what kinds of desires are leading me to the ending of suffering. Sometimes it's not 100% easy to tell. But in any case, the simple case or a simple situation is the desire to meditate. And there we have a very straightforward case of a desire that doesn't lead to more suffering. Okay, it may lead to some sore knees and a little bit of suffering in the short term, but really in terms of your overall suffering, then the desire to meditate leads to a decrease in your suffering. And I hope that you all know that, because otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? You're not here because you want to suffer more, I presume. Is that right? Yeah, that's good. Me too. We're here because we've had enough and we want to be free. So that desire to be free, that desire to practice, right, is motivated by wisdom. It's motivated by compassion, okay? Compassion for ourselves, compassion because when we suffer, we also make other people suffer as well. So that kind of desire, there's nothing unwholesome about it and there's nothing harmful about it. So we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should strengthen it and rejoice in it. So when we see that quality within ourselves, then we can reflect on it and we can celebrate it. Bring it to your mind, develop it, make more of it. You've all got this faculty of enthusiasm, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Unless somebody forced you to come, right? But presumably most of you came of your own free will. That's usually how we do things in Buddhism. Not necessarily 100%. Sometimes at the kids group they get bribed to come and they'll get a lolly if they come to the kids class or something. But most of the time we come of our own free will. And so you have that enthusiasm. You want to practice, okay? You want to understand. You want to be free from suffering. That's why you're here. So to recognize this, to understand it, to reflect on it, to celebrate it, to bring it to mind. Eh? And so this is something that you can do at the start of your meditation. Just when you first come to sit down and meditate, you can run through these 4 iddipadas, bring them to mind, and just remind yourself, yes, you see that thing inside yourself. And that tends to strengthen them and give power to your meditation. Second one of the iddipadas is energy, virya. Now again, this is something that sometimes is misunderstood in Buddhism because Buddhism is sometimes seen as being a very passive religion, or path or whatever we are. It doesn't, when you're meditating, you're just sitting there, you're not doing anything, right? So where's the energy in that? Surely you're using energy if you're going around and doing things, and the energy of sitting still, there's no real energy in that. But the funny thing is that when you do a lot of sitting, a lot of meditation, you actually come to realize that that's the most energetic thing you can be doing. Right? It actually takes a lot of energy to meditate. But it's not the kind of energy that dissipates. Right? Normally when you do things that require energy, at the end of it you feel exhausted, you feel tired. But when you meditate, actually it's very funny, isn't it? Sometimes when you're meditating, even during the meditation, maybe you feel like you don't have any energy, you might feel tired or something like that. But then when you get up and you do things afterwards, you feel, wow, you've got so much energy to do things. So this is this quality that comes from the reflective nature of meditation. Right? So the energy is being internalized and channeled. And even though it's a subtle form of energy, nevertheless, it's very powerful. So the energy that we need for our meditation is not the energy that does anything spectacular. We're not, climbing some distant mountain or something like that. The energy of meditation is very simply the energy that doesn't stop. The energy that never gives up. The energy that keeps on going no matter what. This is the energy that makes a difference in meditation. There's a discussion about this in the Lord of the Rings, when Frodo and Sam were on their way to Mount Doom, and they talk about what it takes to be a hero, and why they wonder whether anyone's going to sing a song about them. And then they realize that the ones who are heroes are the ones who just don't stop. The ones who keep going. That's all that heroism consists of. Actually, the word virya is related to the Pali word vira, which literally means hero. So virya literally means heroism. It's that heroic quality. So to practice energy means that we not only get going, but that we keep going. We not only want to practice, but we actually persist with the meditation. Okay? So this is another very powerful force, and also one which you already have. If you've come here this afternoon to do some meditation, you have that chanda, that enthusiasm to be here. If you're coming to sit meditation, and that enthusiasm, that wanting to practice is already a good thing, okay? So if you decide right now to, get up and go home, right, you've already done a good thing just by coming here, right? Even if you don't actually meditate, even by just wanting to meditate is already good, yeah? So never think that your meditation, that you do it, is a waste of time, right? Even just having that wish to meditate is already something that's very powerful. But then we not only have that wish to meditate, we actually do the meditation. And we have that virya that persists even when things don't go our way. Right? Virya, energy doesn't just mean, when your mind is like really bright and shiny and everything's wonderful and you're thinking, wow, this is so great, right? Virya is precisely what keeps going when everything's really terrible. When your mind feels cloudy and dark. Yeah? When there's 1,000,001 thoughts going zinging around this way and that. When you keep thinking of the 1,001 other things that you could be doing that's so much more fun than being here and meditating, and yet you keep going anyway. And this is your virya. The next quality in the 4 Iddhipadas is the quality of what we call citta. Now, citta in Pali is a very common word that just means mind. And it's used to mean the mind in every sense, right? Pretty much any way that we use the word mind or thought or emotion or heart and so on, it's very broadly used. But in the context of meditation, citta means, usually has a connotation that's very similar in meaning to samadhi. So what it means is a state of purified awareness. So this is something which also we bring to our meditation. We've heard about the teachings of meditation, about what it's like to have a purified mind, about what it's like to be peaceful, about what it's like for the mind to be very bright. And sometimes when you hear those things, you're like, well, that's a long way off, isn't it? Yeah? My mind's not like that. But the secret to meditation is that actually your mind is like that. The same awareness that the sages and the great meditators experience, you have that same thing yourself. It's in your own mind, in your own heart. It's just immature. It just hasn't grown fully yet. So with this citta, iddhipada, what we do is we reflect inside and we look at what is the quality of awareness? What is the knowing like? And you see that that knowing has a certain clarity to it. Maybe not much clarity. It might still be clouded or fractured or something like that, but there's something to it. There's some awareness, there's some clarity. And we bring that to mind and you remind yourself, okay, meditation is just making more of this, of what I already have. And this is the citta iddhipada. Finally, the last one of the iddhipadas is the vimamsa, is investigation or inquiry. So what investigation or inquiry does is that it reflects on and understands what's going on in your own mind. And in particular, it understands the relation between all the other iddhipadas. So when you're doing your meditation, if you begin your meditation, you reflect on each one of these in turn, the desire to practice, the energy to keep on practicing, the awareness, which is the result of practice. And then you reflect back and you look at the relationship and connection between these, and you see that they're all supporting each other. And this you do with your vimamsa, this is strengthening your sense of inquiry. Now, of course, this kind of active inquiry and reflection is not something that you should be doing, during the main part of your meditation. Okay? So you don't sort of, watching your breath and then your mind gets peaceful and then you start thinking about why it's getting peaceful, right? That's not how you should meditate. Obviously that will just disturb your mind, right? But the inquiry is usually something that happens as a reflection afterwards. So those of you who have heard my guided meditations before would know that I always teach that at the end of the meditation you should have a period to reflect back over the meditation. And that's this vimamsa, that's what you're developing there, is the vimamsa. And by reflecting at the end of the meditation, looking back over the meditation that's happened, you do a number of things. One of the things that you do is you start to understand cause and effect. You look at the course of things that's happened one after the other, and you see, when you do this many, many times, not just if you do it once or twice, you do it many, many times, you see the patterns emerging. This is what's happening, this is how my mind works. But the other thing that you're doing is that you're awakening and supporting your inquiring mind. You're giving it an opportunity, right? But an opportunity which is contained. And that helps you actually to not do that same kind of thing during your main meditation. You know that if something happens in your meditation which is interesting, which is fascinating, which you want to think about, you know that there is a time to do that. Right? You're going to give yourself time to think about that. And that time is at the end of the meditation. So you're not going to be so tempted to do that actually during the meditation itself. It's a kind of trick of the mind that if you try to tell your mind not to do things, then it sort of rebels. But if you tell your mind, yes, you can do that, a bit later on, then it tends to be not so rebellious. You're giving it permission. So we use the end of the meditation to develop this vimamsa. Ultimately, of course, the vimamsa matures at a deeper level into the wisdom faculty, which is what allows you to let go of the defilements, let go of suffering. But here initially, as a support for meditation, we're using it to develop our understanding of the process of meditation and how causality works in the meditation process itself. Okay, so now let's do some meditation. I won't do a guided meditation this time, but we'll just do a silent meditation. But if you'd like, just encourage you at the beginning of the meditation to spend 5, maybe 10 minutes reflecting on these 4 iddhipadas: enthusiasm, energy, awareness, and inquiry, and just see if you can see those qualities inside yourself and then see whether they affect or empower your meditation at all. Okay, so let's do some meditation for the next 45 minutes. Asanghiram asankupang yasanati upamakwati adhagamisaminametakangka evam mandhare hiyadhimutachitandi. We can gradually let our mind come back to normal, come out of the meditation. Okay, so I think we have time for a few questions. I'm not sure if there's any questions in the books at the back.
No.
No, we don't have any questions. Wayne.
For the level of clear comprehension that you're mentioning, does the mind have to really go to jhana or be at a jhanic level, or this bit a before jhana level for the psychic powers you're talking about?
What I'm not sure what you mean. What I'm talking about. I wasn't talking about sati sampajanya as such. I was talking about the iddhipadas.
Iddhipadas are for psychic powers, are they? Or?
They're for basis of psychic power. Yeah, so they're not the psychic power, but they're practices which, if you practice them, will develop the power and the strength of your mind. Yeah. So yes, they're very closely associated with samadhi and with the four jhanas. Yeah. I mean, to get the psychic powers as such, then yes. I don't know if you need to get the jhanas, but they're certainly very helpful. But the main point the reason that Buddha called them the iddhipadas was not because he wanted everybody going away and developing psychic powers, but if you know anything about Indian spirituality, you know that that's actually what a lot of people are meditating for, right? So it's actually kind of a skillful means, right? So the people who wanted to get psychic powers, you say to them, okay, this is how you get psychic powers, right? And then you get them doing meditation. Oh, and by the way, incidentally, you get enlightened too, yeah? So it wasn't about sort of encouraging people to meditate in order to get psychic powers, but more just sort of using those idioms as a skillful way of encouraging people in practice. Yeah, but certainly generally your question's quite correct that they're very, very closely associated with samadhi. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, in fact, each of those four iddhipadas, there's a stock phrase that goes with them that says that they're each actually called a samadhi. So you have like chanda samadhi, virya padana samadhi, sankara samana gatangi dipadang. Right? So it's the samadhi which is due to chanda or enthusiasm, to goes together with energetic striving, and this forms the base of psychic power of chanda or enthusiasm.
So by saying samadhi, that would really mean jhana.
Of course, yeah.
And would it finish off with investigation, or would there be a determination?
Determination, not investigation.
It's investigation.
Yeah. Why do you say determination?
I was just thinking for the different psychic powers, they'd actually do a determination normally, or just be an investigation?
Yeah, no. Investigation, yeah.
Okay, right, thank you.
Yeah, so it's what's the wisdom faculty. Yeah. Go on, Wayne.
It's a good opportunity. Venerable Puta was foremost in wisdom next to the Buddha, but not much talk about psychic powers for him. His mind was so wonderful, surely he had the capability of doing this, but it wasn't really mentioned. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or?
Yeah, it's a bit ambiguous in that case. I mean, he's never sort of specifically said to have developed psychic powers, and in his verses in the Theragatha, it says that he didn't practice in order for the sake of developing psychic powers or for the sake of having psychic powers. So it's not quite the same as saying that he didn't have them, but he's saying that he wasn't, that wasn't the point of his practice. So whether he in fact had psychic powers or not seems to be, from the early texts, is a bit uncertain. It doesn't say anything definitive one way or the other. But certainly it's not emphasized, as obviously in contrast with Venerable Moggallana. Yeah. Okay, so if we've got no more questions, let's finish by paying respects to the Triple Gem.